Hi there, and welcome to a series of interviews with speakers of OpenConf 2023. I am Lampros Pappas, Engineering Manager at Citrix, and today I have with me George Hantzaras, Director of Engineering at MongoDB. George, welcome as well. And would you like to share some bits about your role in MongoDB and your journey in the tech community?
Yes. Hi, Labros. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be talking today. I'm a director of engineering for MongoDB for our Kubernetes operator offering specifically, based out of Berlin. And essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to enable how platform and DevOps team interact and set up and manage their MongoDB resources, whether it's on Kubernetes or through Kubernetes in the cloud via MongoDB Atlas, which is our database as a service offering, our kind of developer data platform.
Okay, thanks. You've been in OpenConf before in 2021. In your interview back then, you were asked about cloud adoption surge and its benefits. During the past months or year or so, we read more and more about organizations turning back from cloud to on-prem, mostly due to cost rationalization. As a professional with extensive experience in the tech industry, do you recognize this shift? And what is your personal take on the on-prem versus cloud debate?
Yeah, well, it's definitely been a couple of interesting years since 2021 in terms of kind of managing cloud costs and all those things. We initially saw the birth and rise of FinOps, which was a way for us to stay on the cloud and keep things a bit more sane and manage cost. And then we kind of saw that overstretching to the point where people started leaving the cloud and thinking about on-prem. I think the on the one hand, being sane about the cost and the way we use the cloud, that's a really smart move. A lot of companies weren't really caring about their cloud costs. They kind of weren't doing any sanity checks. But now moving out of the cloud, I think that needs a very specific business case. There are a lot of discussions. um, I'm not sure I agree with all of them. I think if you do have a business case and it makes sense, then it's still something to consider. But we should also consider things that moving off the cloud we don't have, like we don't have a global infrastructure, we don't have geo distributed data centers we can access as easily or we can manage as easily. We don't have all the managed resources. You're an AWS and you have out of the box RDS, load balancers, anything you need just one click away. In the other case, you need people managing that for you. So just moving off the cloud and just doing the math of just purely the cost of infrastructure, I think that's not enough. It's more about calculating human hours, investment, and all those things as well.
Yeah, you're right. Um, as a leader in the tech industry, what is your perspective on the current status of remote and hybrid working arrangements? How has MongoDB, your organization, adapted to those changes? And what potential long-term impacts do you foresee for the tech industry as a whole?
Well, after COVID, we saw a lot of companies trying to push people forcefully back to the offices, um, and of course, engineers pushed back. And if if you push people to do something without good reasoning, that's not going to go well. Um, and reasoning that collaboration is not the same and all of those things kind of make sense, but for most people it's not motivation enough to change the way they work, the way they've kind of formulated their life over the past few years. So I think hybrid work is here to stay. I think major companies have fought this and are office based again. We've seen companies being office first, but besides a few leaders, others aren't gonna kind of go this way, and they're gonna have to stay with a hybrid working environment. At Mongo specifically, my team is fully remote. We are at quite a few, I think 5 or 6 different countries across Europe. So we have to be remote, but we do try to have face-to-face time as much as we can. Meet in the office, try to collaborate, and solving hard problems in front of a whiteboard is can always make a difference.
Yeah, I want to switch gears a bit now. I want to talk a bit about AI. With the rise of several tools like ChatGPT or GitHub's Copilot, generative AI technologies in general, we've seen significant changes in various sectors and applications. Are your engineering teams at MongoDB currently exploring such tools? Are you building any tools utilizing uh, AI tools?
Well, there is a rise in these tools. Copilot, of course, is not as new as everything else. It's been around for some time, and it's just kind of now is the hard commercialization of all of those tools. Um, I think they're here to stay. They are going to change a bit the way we do development. Um, but on the other hand, they kind of have some implications and some complicated aspects of IP ownership. You have something that generates the code, and then you are there and gave the instructions on how to generate the code. So at the end of the day, who is the owner of that? So there are some things that have to be ironed out. Less engineering things, more kind of from the legal aspects. And I think after that, they are going to be able to kind of see mass adoption. As far as Mongo goes, we are doing some exploration very carefully, as I said, because there are these IP implications. So kind of making sure that everything is done the right way has to go first, and that's where we are now. But then also, because we do provide developer tooling, we do provide our developer data platform. Integrating those tools for not just for our internal use, but also for the end users is probably something that's going to make sense in the near future.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to bring us closer to the topic of your speech. I want to speak a bit about Kubernetes. Kubernetes has been the one of the most adopted tools for container orchestration for quite a while. However, for many teams and organizations, it has turned from superhero to villain in several cases as they encounter challenges with managing their clusters effectively. Do you have any strategies or best practices that your teams or you have found effective in overcoming such obstacles?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. Similarly, as you mentioned before about cloud cost, 2021, 2020 were the years everybody was rushing towards the cloud, and then 2022 everybody was rushing off the cloud. Similarly, everybody was talking about adopting microservices, breaking down monoliths, and the terrible monoliths are there to destroy development experience and all those things, and everybody was trying to move to microservices. Now this year we've seen a movement towards the idea of the value of modular monoliths, the value of macroservices, and all of those things. So I would say rational decisions is the way to go. If you have a small startup with 4 engineers, they probably shouldn't have the overhead of managing clusters and all the extra stuff you need. Probably if you want to go to production with Kubernetes, you're going to care about shared service meshes. You're going to care about setting up the right observability tools, Prometheus, Grafana, whatever that is. So it's about building a whole ecosystem. And if you're just a small team, probably it's better if you stick to something else and stay off Kubernetes, because it is indeed hard to manage. And probably this is one of the trends we're seeing now in the CNCF communities is a huge rise on tools that make managing Kubernetes easier and making Kubernetes kind of easier to onboard and both in setting up and day two.
Okay. And as we proceed towards the end of our short interview, Would you like to provide an overview of your speech's main points and what the attendees can expect out of this?
Yeah, sure, sure. The speech is gonna kind of focus on how DevOps is changing. Is gonna start on how DevOps is changing in the cloud native environment and with all the cloud native tools, and especially Kubernetes and Argo CD and all of those things. And it's also then going to work on how we can build tools extending Kubernetes, like custom resources, Kubernetes operators, and so on, in order to streamline deployments and operations of our applications. And essentially, what I call in the presentation cloud native DevOps, on how DevOps principles can be applied and optimized with cloud native tools.
Okay, very interesting. So, George, thanks a lot for our chat today. It was great having you. Looking forward to seeing you in OpenConf 2023.
Thanks for having me, Labra, and I'm really looking forward to the conference.
And also to our viewers out there, thanks a lot for watching, and remember to grab your tickets for OpenConf 2023, taking place on the 10th and 11th of November in Athens. You can find more details about tickets and our speakers at open-conf.gr. Have a great day.